Hello and welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to another edition of Three Live Canes. As always, my name is Chris. That's Bill. Down there, that's Steve-O. Here to talk to you guys about another week of Miami Hurricanes football. A very, if I could borrow one of Steve-O's favorite words, fortuitous week for the University of Miami. Last week we talked about it. We had the conversation. We asked the question, and I don't know who posed it. Maybe someone from the chat, but it was like we got a DC or a quarterback first. And turns out all that was going to happen within the next week. So it turns out to work out pretty well for you. I think it was last Thursday where Carson Beck made his decision. Then shortly after that, Hetherman decided to make a call to become the defensive coordinator at the University of Miami. So obviously we got a lot of good stuff to talk about. You've been hearing some conversations, a chance for us to give our opinions and maybe a little bit of a look onto what the future might hold now that we have two of the most important puzzle pieces already locked away for 2025. But before we get to that, as always, we'll go to Bill first. Bill, how are we doing tonight?
Doing good. What a difference a week makes in Canes football. Going from staring maybe at a 7-5 type season to back telling lies. So the off season's in full force.
If you got Bill turning positive, Bill thinking about double digits in his season prediction, it's a good deal. Steve, how we doing?
Let's not get crazy.
I'm big vibing. I was just in New York. It was all this news is dropping. I'm just like, yeah. It was awesome. I had that flight right after our show last week. It was awesome. Just being up there on vacation, just seeing boom drop, and like I know you could overhype a press conference, but bruh, him becoming a meme, it was just perfect, yo. Shout out to Coach Hetherman, that defensive coordinator. Obviously, we all know what happened. Coach Schiano had to freaking recommend him. Like that just happened. That just let's just cut to the cake. Recommendations there. Resume looks like a young up and comer who could bring the juice. And if anybody's seen the look in his eyes and face at the press conference, we gonna be physical. Maybe that's what we need. And then he has a white boy safety out there at Minnesota just hit the portal that is a baller. So bring that boy. He's like one of those NCAA 25 4-star transfers. You look and it's just somebody.
The freshman dude?
Yeah.
Oh, I didn't realize he hit the portal. Did he really?
I think so. That's what everybody's saying. I don't know if he's in the portal, but everybody was saying
I don't think he's in the portal.
Yeah, he needs to hit that portal. But let's not talk about Tampa festivities live. But yeah, I'm excited about it. That press conference got me juiced up. I'm waiting to see how spring football goes. It's obviously going to be a few months here before we see it live in action.
Yeah, and how interesting spring is going to be with us looking at it from the perspective of who is Carson Beck's backup versus who is going to be the guy that we're looking to take this thing to the next level. It's a very different conversation, a much more exciting, honestly, conversation for us to have here. But a lot to talk about today. We thank you guys for jumping in to join us. It'll be a fun show. Jump in the chat, have a conversation with us. Be happy to give some feedback to you as well. So you know the deal. It's Three Live Canes.
This is for the national championship for Nebraska.
He's a stud, that Brown, number 98.
Irvin's got it. Irvin's free.
Slips to the outside, tries to stiff arm, and he couldn't get by Ray Lewis.
Big time players. Step up in big game.
Hard dog. Don't ask me if I'm all right. Hell no. Devin Hester up to the races. That's what they needed.
That's Ricks going up for Thorpe, and it's intercepted near midfield. Sean Taylor's got another one.
Who else?
Who else but us here on a Wednesday night? Just like who else but Sean there and that nice rainy afternoon on a Saturday, dominating at Florida State. And just like we've dominated now in the quarterback portal chase of 2025. And I know there's a lot of other things we could talk about here, but that's where I want to go first. Well, actually this too, Steve-O. Steve-O, did you have to use hand warmers? Good question from CF Cane fan.
Nah, I was vibing. I this time I had a jacket, a coat, so I was good.
Steve, you picked a good weekend to come because next week we're going to have a low of 6 and a low of 9 on consecutive days.
Yeah, now what you want.
Yeah, it was good. I mean, I was in and out of the car, and then I'm there. Like, I was outside. We walked, going to her parents' house was the longest walk. It was like a block or two. I was vibing. The North Face on top of the little Nike Tech, just hoodie, joggers, long johns, man. I was like, hands in pockets though. Technique.
But what do you do when the girl goes over to hold your hand, like taking that walk? What do you do? Just slap her hand away?
Nah, I ain't slapping her.
All right, but Steve, we'll talk more about how the meeting with the parents went a little bit later, because that the meeting with the Carson Beck's family went really well, because Carson Beck is your newest starting quarterback for the University of Miami. Came a conversation that we had. Everyone had the conversation a couple weeks ago, and then it's like, Willie, won't he declare for the draft? Okay, so maybe he's out. And now for the second straight year, we pull in a guy who declared for the draft, and we're like, you can wait on that money a little bit. We will throw plenty of money at you now to play quarterback and hopefully get us to get this thing to the playoffs. So, Steve, I'll go to you first. Carson Beck, University of Miami quarterback. Just give me your thoughts.
I mean, I remember most of us change name Steve, but most of us are, you're in this chat. You probably remember when we recruited Carson Beck out of high school, out of Jacksonville, Florida. What's up, guys? You guys know, this whole transfer portal era has made it so crazy because, we be so juiced up on these kids and they come and go. But you just realize sometimes all the kids you miss that just come back, or a kid you didn't recruit on that just come back. It's just crazy how it goes. So being in full circle, being the guy that, he went to Georgia, and then we ended up going with Tyler Van Dyke, blah, blah, blah. He played in big games at Georgia, blah, 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 whatever it is. It's just crazy that it just works like that. That it's just back to it. I think he's a big-time quarterback. Made a little bit more turnover-worthy throws this year. They got intercepted, but the volume he was throwing at still low interception rate. It's not like he's handing the ball off to the defense. But also, they led the nation in drops. And I had a ticket that failed because number 86, I literally deleted his name out of my brain. He dropped a freaking post that would have had Stockton over, which he still had over. But then, bro, he needed to be over 43.5 yards for me. And he dropped the post. I was like 40 yards. And I was just like, bro, this is why. I just remember so much games. They're just dropping the ball. And Canes fans remember our 2020 season where we had, a duo that led, the ACC in drops. They looked great compared to going through some of this tape for Carson Beck. I mean, these guys are dropping wide open touchdown. Number 11, Arian Smith he's like Ted Ginn sometimes, bro. Like he'll just drop that wide open one and not even trying to come at him because I think he's pretty good. But I mean, he has like at least 300 yards on tape just washed down just because he blows by everybody and just drops the ball right in his hands. I mean, 86, same thing. He did it to me in my pockets. Like it was like, these guys dropped the football over there. If we get him some elite pass catchers, which I know there's a title that there says, maybe we can bring in somebody. Whoa, this offense could be really well. I think the terminology is definitely going to be different, though. They did a lot of spread, a little bit more throwing the ball at Georgia than you would ever think Kirby Smart would go for. But it ain't what Coach Dawson's running down here. So the terminology, the switch up, and the play style. Let's see if we can unlock a different version of Carson Beck, a more aggressive version, maybe not as conservative as he was at Georgia. And for lack of what's going on is Georgia can't run the ball like they used to be able to run the ball. We can run the ball like how we know we can run the ball under Coach Cristobal. This might be the best thing that ever happened to Carson Beck.
Bill, thoughts?
I'm a pretty negative fan, so to say. But I was floored at the negativity coming from, I guess a sizable portion of the fan base. You went out and you got, the best portal quarterback option available. I guess if you want to make a case for Mateer being, the better option, I'm sure you could have that discussion. So a top two, quarterback option in the portal. And just, the second he committed, we went from, most likely a 6 to 7 win team with the current, situation to back to talking about potential ACC championships, not 10, maybe even 11 win season. So, if your expectation or your standard is what happened this year with Cam Ward, you're going to be disappointed every single year going forward for the next probably 20, 25 years. We have the number one offense. We're probably not going to have the number one offense again, and that's okay. But I think what Beck brings is he's a guy that, can essentially make every throw. He's going to be able to run this offense without a problem. It doesn't come without risk, right? The injury is something that, is definitely going to linger until, he is fully cleared throwing in the summer. That's, 6-7 months away, but he had that terrible 4-game stretch. What was that? October, November. I was just looking at the game logs and kind of what Steve-O was alluding to with the volume of throws. He was throwing the ball 50, 48, 41, 40 times. I don't think he's that kind of quarterback, and I'm gonna say kind of for us, he can be a high level game manager, and game manager not being a negative on him, but he can come in, manage the offense, make all the throws, allow the running game to do its thing. If we get it, an elite wide receiver in here, then that even elevates it more. But he's significantly raised the floor of this team, in my opinion.
Yeah, for sure. And it's different throwing the ball 45, 51 times because you can't run the ball and everybody knows and no play action works. And let's be real, they're not scheming up easy stuff. It's running a pro style system. They're doing, developing routes. He's reading everything. Coach Dawson's going to, even Cam Ward had it. Sometimes we would get mad as fans that he didn't take it, but then he just makes something crazy happen. You're like, oh, okay, cool. That's nice. But, Coach Dawson's going to scheme him up food. It's going to be easy. So, yeah, he might not be a traditional, when you want him throwing the ball 50 times, probably not. But if you give him, 5 to 7, maybe even 8 throws where it's just routine, get it out of his hands, wide receiver screens. We know how explosive we are at that position, in the years past. So there's going to be stuff like that where I think the volume is going to be drop a little bit just because we can run the ball. But I think he's still going to be a high volume passer. I think Coach Mario, there's no way he looks at what happened this year with Coach Dawson when he got an experienced quarterback in his system. There's no way he's going to touch it to the point where this the same is business as usual over there. I think that they're just trying to build that system and run through it. I don't think obviously losing Cam Ward is losing Cam Ward, but that shouldn't change what the philosophy and what the system is in the building.
And certainly, to both the points that both of you guys have made, considering, and Steve, you said before, an opportunity for Carson Beck to really raise his stock and raise his status as, a future NFL pro and all that, kind of like Cam Ward did. And Bill brought up the point about how a lot of people were like, well, he's not Cam Ward, and who is Cam Ward? But there was, maybe before he actually, officially committed, when there was a rumor he's going to hit the portal, and people were like, I saw enough, okay, we'll take him. And then blah, 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 whatever came after it. The amount of people that were even nonchalant about the idea of getting Carson Beck floored me when you're talking about a dude who has been to the playoffs, has started 27 games or whatever it is in the SEC, a guy who is, a guy who has done pretty much everything you could ask for on a resume to be an NFL player, an NFL quarterback, and you're getting him as a fifth-year guy in your program. I mean, this is as much a slam dunk as anything. Arguably, I know what Cam Ward became. Arguably, a bigger pull-in than Cam Ward was last year, if you consider the resume that each of them had. Now, Cam Ward obviously became a number one pick, one of the greatest in the program. Maybe greatest in program history, but Carson Beck was nothing but a slam dunk for the University of Miami. And anyone that thought differently is completely out of their mind. And that goes along with all the Florida State fans who are arguing for their 5'7" quarterback who quit a team as being a better option. I mean, one of the most ludicrous things that I've ever seen, but we'll touch on that a little bit later. But I think the idea for Carson Beck now is, Steve-O, you mentioned before that we're not looking to change much of what we did, but obviously there's certain skills that Carson Beck has that wasn't really a Cam Ward thing, but what, just from going through Carson Beck, what do you think his greatest strengths are?
I mean, I think it's funny because accuracy, deep balls. I've seen him put a lot of deep balls on people. And it really comes to the point where you're just like, okay, he has intermediate accuracy. He has, downfield accuracy. Georgia doesn't really give that much quick, throws that we would. In our offense, they hand the ball off in those situations. But it gets to the point where you just see accuracy at all levels of the field. So that's why. And then he has the arm to throw it. Does he have the strongest arm? I don't think he has a weak arm, but I think it's probably NFL arm. He'll go ahead and make impacts all levels of the game with accuracy. So I think from that standpoint, you're looking at a guy who's seen every type of blitz they can throw at you. You know, he's seen big time defensive backs. He's seen big time linebackers and D lines. You know, he's played in championship games. He's played national titles. I mean, that's just really what it comes down to. You're getting all that experience and you're letting, you know, that shit just come together.
Bill, like what effect does it have on the guys around him? Because we'll talk about the skill guys and potential options in a second, but just about the Mark Fletchers of the world. And I know there was a weird Instagram post that people got, or a Twitter post or whatever, that got people nervous, but I'm not worried about it myself. Just seemed like he was being really appreciative of the University of Miami and the fans and all that. But what does it do for the Fletchers and the Lyles and the Loftons and the JoJos of the world?
Yeah, I mean, it significantly elevates them from, you know, what was about to happen this year. You know, I think back to, you know, the Clemson game last year, the Florida State game last year, the second half of the Pop-Tarts Bowl, and, you know, how limited the offense appeared, and, you know, just from, you know, a play calling perspective. But again, the playbook is 100% open, right? They're, you know, teams aren't going to be able to, you know, stack the box, and if they do, you know, Beck can hurt him with his arm, right? We have the guys to do that. You know, and if they want to, you know, sit back and try and take away the passing game, you know, we're going to bludgeon them to death, you know, like we did against Florida State this year as well. So, you know, again, full playbook open. It's going to look different, right? You know, Beck's not going to be, you know, spinning out of sacks and, you know, throwing across his body for, you know, 40 yards into a touchdown. But yeah, I think you'll kind of see it maybe more efficient in terms of what it should look like, you know, more quick decision making. You know, are we going to have the number one offense? No, but, you know, can we almost match the efficiency of the offense from last year? Possibly, right? If Beck, you know, kind of, I guess, tunes up the decision making and the turnovers. But you look at his 2023 year, and that's, you know, that's elite quarterback play. So I think we'll be able to get that out of them. Georgia's system, you know, with Mike Bobo, you know, those, you know, Bulldogs fans, you know, want him gone. You know, they had a, you know, it's Georgia. You would think they have elite weapons everywhere. They didn't, whether guys didn't pan out, misses, whatever. But I think he's coming into a really good situation. And so long as that arm heals up, you know, we should be ready to go. But, you know, we're going to need it, right? Notre Dame game 1 next year.
Yeah. And the line play too. Another like aspect of it. It's, I mean, even if they had a good offensive line last year, which they didn't, we're still talking about an elite offensive line potentially that Miami could have versus what Georgia was, whatever it was. So like an obvious step up there. So, you know, obviously now it's a weapons conversation for Carson Beck, and, you know, talent acquisition is the name of the game. Mario in his presser after the additions of Hetherman and Beck and all these guys, he still went about it and said, you know, it's about getting in as much talent as we can. Steve-O, right now with where we sit with our weapons, like, are we content? Are we still looking for a big-time player out there? I know it says it up in the header, big-name receiver, still like potentially looming out there somewhere, whether it's now or in the future in the spring portal.
I think you're content if you didn't lose Horton. I mean, just being real. If you brought in CJ Daniels and you got JoJo, you're feeling really good about, you know, you got some, you know, you got Nycars in his second year. Chance was banged up. He'll be in his second year. You're starting to feel, you know, okay, I got an explosive weapon in Lofton I can use anywhere on the field. So you're feeling pretty good about your weapons. You got running back, you got Lyle and Fletcher. I seen somebody asked about the post. I was nothing worried about that. So you're feeling good about your weapons for sure. And then there's always that one person who's going to step up. So who can that be? Who can you get that greatness out of? I think we'll be fine. But you lost Horton, and so you need to low key probably get a big game guy, and it comes so easy. You know, we got Sam Brown in the portal last year. You know, around that time because we had Cam Ward. I believe, you know, you do something similar with Carson Beck. You attract the talent to come there who's probably trying to get money for himself in the NFL. Let him battle it out. You know, you'll have JoJo, you'll have CJ Daniels, and then maybe they bring in more of like a slot guy. Maybe they bring in an outside guy and move JoJo to the slot. Maybe like him there. There's endless possibilities. So we'll see how that goes. But definitely some young talent that could explode. And then in the tight end room as well, with Lofton, he's probably going to have a big year for us. I mean, I can't imagine there's no way Coach Dawson's seen him in practice for a year. Was already scheming him open in plays, giving him the ball as a freshman. I can't imagine, you know, in another year in the program why you wouldn't do that, especially with Arroyo being gone now and that absence there for the deep threat at tight end. I feel like Lofton's going to seamlessly step into that role.
Now, Steve, you said maybe moving JoJo inside for the slot. Like, if you had to make a decision for him, knowing now seeing Shannon Dawson's offense at the highest level, like, where would you think he would best profile?
I want him outside. I really do. I really like smooth receivers. You have to be super smooth on the outside. Can he perform in the slot? Yeah, I think. It's more of like a Jacoby George thing. He's not gonna outbody guys. He's not that type of outside receiver. He's a guy who's gonna win because he's smooth, he's quick, he is super athletic, he has a long stride, insane ball skills. So he's that type of guy. So he can go in and out on formations. They can move him around like they did with Jacoby. So I really don't mind where he goes, but as of right now, there's no one I would put over him outside. So unless you would get a big name transfer that would make that into a discussion, I like him outside, but I do like him, them scheming him open, maybe getting safeties or linebackers on him, obviously, or even a nickel back. So it's definitely something you would probably see throughout the year, him playing inside. I believe he was inside on that dig route that he caught for the touchdown. So it's definitely there. He has the ability, but right now, he has to be starting outside at X or Z, whichever. I think it would be Z because that's what Jacoby played. I would assume that's what the role he would step into.
And the obvious question that follows up, we're talking about potentially bringing in a guy to replace a Horton and to fill out that top three. If we're not gonna, and in the age of modern day NIL and transfer portal, like very few programs wait to say like, oh, I'm sure it'll work out. Interestingly, a couple big name programs around the country are sitting on and hoping that a young guy steps up and plays at that level, namely Oregon, Bama. They're saying like, oh, I'm sure it'll work out the young guy, probably Ohio State as well. But maybe Miami does go to the portal, and like you said, maybe it's after spring practice portal entry. Bill, is there anybody out there right now, or do you think that big fish would be someone that pops in later once he sees the situation in Miami could be fortuitous for him?
Yeah, I think it'll be after spring. Think about, everyone, obviously wants Jeremiah Smith. That's probably not happening. But think about all the receivers that gave us a look even without a quarterback. Like that Singleton, right? I think he ended up at Auburn, right? Branch, right, ended up at Georgia. So receivers were giving us looks without even knowing the quarterback. So I think if a big name wants to test the waters a little bit, right? I think Miami is the obvious choice around the country, and we're going to get opportunities. So, but even if we don't, we have a room loaded with blue chippers, right? And I think we can make that work. Although I would love to add just that true number one type guy, if it's available. But I see the way Beck and Bowers kind of, dominated 2023. And I envision kind of Lofton, having that same, chemistry. I'm not saying he's Bowers by any stretch of the mean or any stretch of the imagination, but I can see Beck kind of using him as that, safety valve and just, getting in his hands, picking up an easy, 5 to 10 yards just on dump offs, things like that. So I think the tight ends will be utilized a lot more with Beck.
And Mr. Overdose in the chat throwing it in there too. The opportunity to get Lofton and Bauman on the field at the same time, and then you have obviously Luke Nichols' brother coming in, as a blocking type, a guy that can fill out that room really well. That tight end room from being really stacked with all these high profile recruits to losing one to the draft and losing a couple to the transfer portal. Now again looks like a really really solid room for Miami and potentially could get a lot of targets out of it, like Bill Stooley pointed out with how Beck utilized the tight end of Georgia when Bowers was there. Obviously he's a different kind of animal. But now we can look to the future a little bit with it and how that's going to potentially shake out for Miami down the road. And, the offense obviously was a key part of Miami's 10 wins last season. The defense, not so much, but Mario looking for talent all over the place, guys that are going to be on the field and guys that are on the sidelines. Bringing in Corey Hetherman, the defensive coordinator at Minnesota, a guy who's been around a lot of different stops, really kind of clawed his way up in a lot of ways, like the opposite of Mario Cristobal, right? Mario played for a big time program, won national championships, a big time program, got opportunities to GA at big time programs. Then you got this dude who was a quarterback at a small school, found his way to defense because that was the best fit for him at the time. And then all these little stepping stones to make it to where he is. And now he's defensive coordinator at the University of Miami. And like Steve mentioned before, I mean, you saw that press conference. I don't think there's been a more watched defensive coordinator press conference than what Corey Hetherman put together the other day. And it was just like I was just listening to it. I was listening to it on the way to work the other day, just in the car. And then he was speaking with such like intent. I kept like glancing down at like, Jesus, what? And then sure enough, you see like ready to go, like ready to coach. Like he was pissed that he wasn't out there on the field at that exact second. Because he probably watched the tape and decided, no, we got to get to work on this thing as soon as possible. But Bill, I'll go to you first as our resident, the backwards hat wearing defensive coordinator. What were your first impressions of Hetherman to the?
It seems intense, which is kind of a different approach than how Guidry at least appeared. So 1 year calling plays at the P4, but one thing that I really liked about his resume is he has a history of doing or having success with less talented players, right? He was at James Madison, Maine, Minnesota. No one's really going to confuse any of those programs for the 85 Bears, although they are good programs for their level. So he's coming down. He's going to have a different kind of athlete to work with. But the one thing that every defensive coordinator is going to preach aggressiveness, right? We're going to be aggressive. But the one thing that he was harping on that I liked was just simple, right? And that's something I think we had. We're joking about just run cover 2 like Randy Shannon used to do, and let the guys play fast as a potential adjustment during this horrific defensive season. But if he can simplify this defense, right, get these guys playing fast, it's going to look night and day different than what we saw. Although I don't even know if like schematically it's going to be all that much different, right? He typically is a 4-down, 4-down DC. 4-down defensive lineman. So I don't know if it's going to really look different, right, in terms of like alignment, things like that. But I think I can essentially guarantee that if the offense uses motion, you're not going to see a Chinese fire drill on the defensive side.
And honestly, he coached linebackers for Greg Schiano, and you can make fun of Rutgers all you want, but at the end of the day, like Greg Schiano knows how to coach. He's put a lot of guys in the NFL. Take guys that have no business probably being pros, guys that were small school dudes in like upstate New York, and turned them into NFL players. And if you can coach defense for Greg Schiano, and I know Mario Cristobal respects Greg Schiano probably about as much as he respects any other coach in the country, then that means you know how to coach defense. And the fact that we've had a safety coach, and Steve, I don't know if this like rings anything in your head, but we had a safety coach as our head defensive coordinator last year, and he couldn't get the safeties on the same page, much less the linebackers. Generally speaking, the quarterbacks of your defense. Now bringing in a linebackers coach, which saw the obvious issues we had, and basically referencing the lack of communication our defense had last year. Hopefully that's going to be the first thing that changes, figured out how to get guys in the right position to do the basic things you need on defense, which we didn't really do.
This is the real question. Who the hell wants to be the guy that he's focusing on in the film room? Hell no. You don't want to be that guy he's looking at on the film room with the laser at the board. Hey, West. you. This went right through the 6. This is your tackle. No one wants to be that guy. I'm telling you right now. I wouldn't. Like, who wants to be the guy he's singling out on Sunday when they're watching film? Nobody. And then he's probably going to be like that Monday through Saturday. So I think the energy is one thing. Coach Guidry, has ups and downs here for sure. Went down on the down streak, but he was a more laid back, kind of a chill guy. Really wasn't known for being a juice guy. Yeah, I think it's a different animal. He's gonna bring the juice, and I think that's really important when you run an aggressive defense. You get a lot of bodies there. You get them amped up. You get them ready to go. We play aggressive. We're deep. We roll, and we have size. We have speed. There's a lot of speculation what can come with that. Nick Monroe has been rumored to Miami for like the last 7 years. Like easily Nick Monroe. He was his DB coach at Minnesota. He does really good down here with a lot of local kids. So his face is clean at almost every school. So I mean that could be a possibility. We'll just wait to see how it goes. Obviously, he just worked with him, and obviously he just had a lot of success with his defensive back. So we'll see if that's what he does. But man, that energy. That's what I was on. The energy. That's really what it's all about. I think that's the difference we'll see this year. Obviously, everybody knows the quote, "We're going to play aggressive." I think it's like a picture of that, like a screenshot on the line going for like 80,000 likes because everybody in the country is just looking at this guy like, "Holy, this guy is." He meant that. Like he really meant that. So as Canes fans, I want to see how it looks in spring. Obviously, I don't want to see how it looks, on our own players, but I just want to see how it looks all together. I think you'll see. I want to say not an uptake in just like practice energy, but maybe like morale boosting. People start feeding off each other. It's easy to find a leader. So if you have a coach that rules like that, or not rules, but coaches like that inspires that people to bring that energy, and you might discover a leader or two, which we're going to need some on defense.
Yeah, and with the idea and thinking about what has been said in the past about our defense, and like another thing I noticed from the press conference was how he came in and said, "Hey guys, number one, I'm gonna observe them. I'm gonna see what they can do. I'm gonna see who can run, who can bend, who can do all those things. Then we're gonna worry about like sliding into positions and doing all that." I thought that was interesting to hear him say that. And then I know Mario's press conference, we're talking about the re-addition, the return of Akeem Mesidor. He was like, we love him as an edge guy and all that, but you never know how it's going to look. And if you're playing an aggressive defense, maybe this is where you have your Mesidor is able to play more inside, and you're going to get upfield and try to, wreak havoc like we've done in the past. Even a dude like RJ McIntosh kind of came in as a bit of a tweener before he eventually settled inside. And, there's different things you could do with it. If we're going to be aggressive and we're going to try to take chances and see what we can do with his defense, I'm excited to see what he'll bring to the table, because it seems like everything is out there, right? And when you're as bad as you were last year, it should be everything on the table. Whatever options make the most sense, whoever plays at a high level. And honestly, when you have a team, and especially a defensive line loaded with as many blue chip guys as you have, you probably want that new coach to come in and just say like, all right, I'm going to play whoever's out here to be killers, because that's what he is. That's what he wants.
Especially when you change defensive coordinators, right? You're going to change the scheme to some degree, right? There's always like a guy or two that it just is a naturally better fit, right? So we're going to talk all spring, summer about potential starters and whatnot, but there might be just a random guy that's second or third string right now that is starting against Notre Dame in about 7 or 8 months here. So I think that's going to be something to keep an eye on in spring as well, especially at the linebacker position. Just watching the college football playoff, I think that was the biggest difference just in terms of how they play versus kind of what our linebackers have look like. The guys I watch, right, for Penn State, Notre Dame, Ohio State, Texas, those guys are big and they're flying around and they're hitting people, right? Yeah. So I think that's kind of the biggest, I guess, disparity right now. But he's a linebackers coach, right? So I would expect that play to be elevated, especially with those young guys, because we have recruited very well. So I think there is enough raw talent to at least get back to average to above average linebacker play.
Yeah, honestly, like looking at some of those dudes like Sonny Styles for Ohio State, that looks like a guy that used to play linebacker for Miami, big former safety, moved up to play in the linebacking core, can fly around, that kind of stuff, especially when you got like physical playmaking safeties behind him. That's all stuff. And it's guys that have the talent to do so. It's just a matter of us putting it all together and having this defense click. It's easy to say how much better would we be, but is this defense going to be good enough just by changing the philosophy? Like, do we have the talent on this defense to earn that 10-win season, earn that 11-win season? Because obviously offense is going to take a bit of a step back. You can't lose Cam Ward and Restrepo and all those guys without taking some level of a step back. But is the defense with new leadership, not a ton of new players outside of the secondary, but is that going to be enough to get us back to 10, maybe 11 wins, Bill?
There's absolutely no reason why this defense can't be at least average, right? Kind of what we have on D line, a whole retooled secondary. A new coach that's probably going to get the most out of his guys just by staring at them all creepily. But no, I mean, you think, the Reuben Baines of the world, the Justin Scotts, right? Those blue chipper guys, all the transfer, portal work we've done. And he's had quick turnarounds, right? You saw, Minnesota, I think they were, I want to say like in the 80s, when he first got there, and, then they, made a huge jump. So he's able to do quick work. And I would expect the same here, that we would at least get to average, potentially, slightly above average. And if we do that, I think then, we're staring down, a 10, maybe even 11 win season, depending on, how small the drop off is, within the offense.
Steve-O, you think changing philosophies on defense is enough to get this defense away from total disaster and up to respectability?
It don't need to be the best defense in the nation. It just needs to improve the tackling, bro. It just needs to improve the tackling, and we would win more games than not if we just tackled better. I mean, it's such a simple, simplistic, basic, fundamental thing that's just essential for any team that hopes to compete for any type of game that means anything. You have to be able to tackle. It's a prerequisite. So if that improves, I think that's really all that. It's really all that it matters, man. Bring the juice, the scheme. Do I want him to, scheme stuff up? Yeah, of course we do. But even if in his first year, if they just tackle better, I mean, we'll be a lot improved. Then do I think would it be the strength? I still think the strength could be the offense, but at least it could definitely be a Batman Robin situation where the defense makes plays. The defense isn't always giving up 40 points a game. The defense is giving up, 20 and under, 21 and under. We could live with that. We could live with that because we would expect to score more than 21 points in a football game. Obviously games are different. There's going to be some games where the offense ain't clicking. We'll need the defense to step up in that game that happens. But for that, we could just get that type of improvement. I'll be fine.
Johnny Green, loving the shirt, Steve-O. Throwing it in there.
You feel me? Let's see. Gotta pull it out.
There's one of the things that would have beat Rutgers in the pinstripe if they tackle that. Yeah, would have. And that was he there? And I think
he was.
Hetherman was there. Was that Rutgers when that in that game too? Yeah. Unless he had left ready to DC, but
they tackled.
They tackled.
They won the game because they tackled.
Out there in the cold, we're tackling in that game. But it brings, if we're going to talk about the defense getting better, I think it's also a good opportunity to talk about something else. Bill's been doing the Lord's work, Steve. I don't know if you've noticed, but Bill has been on Twitter doing the Lord's work of harassing everyone that has a Badger or W in their Twitter picture just about Xavier Lucas. He's trying to annoy the fan base into them just giving up and saying, all right, you guys can just have Xavier Lucas, because Bill is trying his best to be a problem online for people. Because we enter into, day 47 of the Xavier Lucas watch. Like, when will they let this poor kid enter the portal? And every day it pops out, new turn of events, new update in the Xavier Lucas situation. But all it is just exactly what everyone assumed, and that's NIL people are trying to tell Wisconsin to hold it back. But Bill, your feelings and emotions, have they changed at all? Or your thoughts going into this continuous war you're fighting against those people from Wisconsin?
No, I'm still pissed. There's one thing to troll, right? Florida State fans. That as fun as that is, right? It's the same kind of tired remarks, but what Wisconsin is doing, they are intentionally harming a kid's future because of some potential contract dispute with their collective. And the Wisconsin fans cannot grasp that those are two separate things that shouldn't be intertwined at this point, right? In how college football is run. So part of the fun is just kind of poking at, their lack of knowledge. The second part is, they had a quarterback decommit who openly, said they're not honoring my commitment anymore. But that's enough ammo that I need to just say, hey, look at the negative effects. And that was enough to get some, get some feedback from them. But I have a couple tweets bookmarked, and once this situation is resolved, even if he doesn't come to Miami, once he's freed, that's all that I want, because what they're doing is it's wrong, right? It's not just against the rules, right, of the NCAA, spineless and toothless as they are, but it's also just wrong from like a moral standpoint, right? The kid doesn't want to be there. He did what he was supposed to do. He gave you the piece of paper, and they're like, no. But we are, I think the last day to like enrolling classes for Miami is next week. So, I think things kind of have to happen, very soon, which I hope that they do. And I also hope that regardless of what happens, Wisconsin gets sued into oblivion.
He hired a lawyer today. So like we're trending in that direction for sure. But
yeah, he's had Heitner. But I think today was supposed to be something, right? Either put him in or they're going to start the legal proceedings. But it's just terrible, what they're doing. If he owes money, that has nothing to do with going into the portal. We have this thing called court for that. I don't know. I guess Wisconsin's law program is dog shit. So I don't know.
Oh, aggressive from Bill. I was like when Steve-O went after that court receivers coach. What's his name? Receivers coach left for Georgia.
BMAC.
Yeah, that was the best. That was like 7 years ago now. That was one of the greatest shows we had. But Steve-O, thoughts on the Xavier Lucas situation now that it drags on?
I mean, I thought sitting here today he'd be in the portal. I mean, we talked about it last week. Everybody's talking about it. I mean, that's the thing. It's not just Canes fans talking about it. The whole country's talking about it, because it's just like, yo, is this school really just not letting him hit the portal? Because every fan's thinking the same thing. Yo, we had people we didn't want to hit the portal. Like, we couldn't do this. So now it's a talking point from the most casual fans to everybody who's a diehard, because the transfer portal, even though it's new, this is still has been a couple of years now. There's been nothing like this. There's never been one time. You think Washington State didn't want to submit Cam Ward's name, like didn't want to hold Cam Ward out the portal? Duh, but you can't do it. Like you can't do it. Like it came out today. Georgia didn't want Carson Beck to enter his name into the portal. You can't stop it. It doesn't matter. You think Georgia wanted Justin Fields to hit the portal, or Kansas State wanted Will Howard to hit the portal? Think about it, guys. You can't stop it. So it's just crazy that it's this point. And as the day goes by, it just gets bigger and bigger, because the camp is releasing this, or legal action this, and then tomorrow it's going to be a court is going to release documents because this was filed yesterday. It's going to be every day you wake up and check your news feed, if you're on Twitter or you're watching the show on anything where you go. Every day there's going to be something, because time is ticking. He has to get enrolled in another school. So they're going to put the pressure on.
Yeah. And like the thing, you can always sue for whatever you want, but easy to sue for damages and like have that number go up. If you're saying I'm not allowed to play in the spring, those kinds of things, like I can't play in the spring, well, that's going to cost me money next year. That's going to cost me money because my draft stock is going to blah, 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 whatever it's going to be, long-term stuff. So there's always going to be arguments that they make. Johnny Green with a great point.
Yeah, that was funny. But you don't even need to make that argument though, because it's just against the rules. That's the NCAA rule. Like you're literally defying the NCAA right now. Wisconsin, like that's just what it is. Like this isn't even like a hardship waiver. This is just clear. This is not one of those million things in the NCAA that's gray area. This is one of the things that are black and white. The kid submits the paperwork to the compliance office at the school. Has nothing to do with the football coach. I don't know why we talking about Luke Fickell. I don't know why we talking about nobody else. This is a chancellor, a president, somebody in that school, in that institution needs to be like, yo, we are all going to lose our jobs if y'all don't tighten up. Like, what is wrong with y'all? Submit them in the portal. And then as a collective, be like, yo, you got to pay us this. Tell your next collective they owe us this, or whatever the case may be. You need to but put his name in the portal, man. Yeah. You guys, that's just going out bad. How much kids we know if hit the portal and going back to the school? Like it happens, but just not putting him in the portal means that's not happening. It's going to be an ugly divorce. It's going to be national news no matter what happens. Every day your program's you're losing too. It's not like you're winning. So it's just like you don't want that. I mean, you really don't if you're Wisconsin and Madison. And it just doesn't make sense.
And you're going to lose. Like, you can't win. There's no winning for Wisconsin here.
Yeah.
You hold what's that?
Fickle's going to be fired next year, right? Because that program's going in the wrong direction. And one of the tired arguments from Wisconsin fans is, we had 24 players enter the portal. It's not a problem. There's something else going on. Yeah, what's going on is he was your best player as a true freshman, and you pissed him off, and now he wants to leave. So that's why he's holding back. If he was some third string corner, that we're not having this discussion. He's your best player. He's a true freshman. You out recruited us to get him, right? You beat us, right? It was a decision on signing day. He chose Wisconsin, regrets it, and for whatever reason they can't handle that. But I think they have other things to worry about because their program's going in the wrong direction, and this is the hill to choose to die on. Is a South Florida kid wanting to essentially go back home or at least explore other options because your program is going in the wrong direction. Fix your program, follow the rules. I hope they get sued.
Yeah, as soon as he started doing that Steve-O walk right from the plane to the car to his dorm room to practice, bubble back to the dorm room. As soon as he started doing that walk, hands in his pockets, like Steve-O had double North Face. That was it. He's like, I'm not cut out for this. I like the warm weather down there a little bit better.
I said this tongue in cheek on the board, but I'm actually kind of half serious about it. Like if the NCAA refuses to acknowledge or step in and say, "Hey, Wisconsin, do the right thing," we should just have them enroll and start practicing and say, "Hey, okay, NCAA, you don't want to enforce that rule? What rule are you going to enforce here? Just play them." We're playing the game of chicken with the NCAA anyway.
Well, if they allow them to do it, I mean, everyone's just going to start doing it. And they're going to be like, that's all it's going to be. So I don't know. But we'll see what happens, shakes out. But there is another guy, another South Florida resident that will be coming to Miami if all things work out. Obviously, we're far away. But that's Amari Stevens, wide receiver in the class of 2027, who made his verbal commitment to Miami known recently. And this is Steve-O down again, a guy that you've probably seen a good amount of. Decided to play for Miami. What kind of it's a long way away. Sure, we'll talk about it here on the show for the next 2 years. But what kind of player is Miami projected to get now for this kid who just finished his second year?
Yeah, I mean, he played St. Thomas for my little brother, so I've seen pretty much every game this year. He is explosive, very explosive. He's going to be a big-time weapon for American Heritage. He just transferred over there. We're going to have to cover him in couple weeks. He'll be playing for SFE, so we'll have to line up and make sure we have all eyes on him because he is explosive. He has instant start and stop speed. I think he's probably the most explosive, if not probably one of the most explosive players in that country for that class, and probably one of the best offensive players. It'd probably be between him and Lil Nick, at Northwestern. So Nicholas Lanier. So it would definitely be, that's Dallas Crawford's little cousin. He's from Fort Myers. He transferred over here to play at St. Thomas. Now he's, staying in Broward, moving to Heritage. But, Kane, his whole entire life, dropping, baby picks, kid picks, family picks, everybody, as I mentioned, Fort Myers, we do have some Canes over there, and his family happens to be one of those. So happy that he made that decision. Obviously, it's a long way away. You want to just, hold on to it. But with kids nowadays with NIL, they're reclassifying to get to that money faster. You never know. I'm not saying anything about that, but you just never know when you hear it. Everybody said the same thing about Malachi Tony when he was a 26 commit. And next thing you know, he's in this class. He's going to play above 50% of the snaps as a freshman because he's a stud. You just never know. And, instant stop and start speed, explosive, can get over the top, understands leverage, abuses safeties deep, abuses them boys deep. He's a deep threat. But he could take drags to the crib. I've seen him break tackles. He's held onto the ball. I know he went viral for that Bishop Gorman game. Safety laid the wood on him. It was Kobe Bryant's nephew or whatever, so they were hyping it up. But I was just like, bro, he held on to that bitch. So what we talking about? It's first down. So it's definitely probably one of those early gets that Canes fans, I understand he's 27, he's not going to get happy about. But when it comes down to it, and it's his time to sign, you'll already know he's probably the premier player in this class. You'll see all the big dogs after him: Ohio State, Ole Miss, Oregon. Those are probably the 3 schools that I've seen the coaches walk in personally and go and talk to them. So it's definitely there. He's going to be a big time recruit that every program is going to try to flip, and those are the ones that you thankful for, because those are the ones you need. So go ahead, you want to fight for him? Go ahead. We already have him in the boat. Now we just got to keep him in it. And yeah, it's going to be a battle because Ohio State's gonna probably try to like do everything they can to probably flip him.
Yeah, I mean that it seemed to work out well for them in the past, so I can see that for sure. Phil, thoughts on Amari Stevens?
Yeah, I mean, I don't have any data as to what the percentage is of kids that commit like 2 years out, how much end up sticking, but again, it's like Steve was saying, it's hard to like get totally like juiced up about a 2027 kid, but knowing that he is like one of the dudes down there, that's what you want. So I'm curious to see how this plays out. But I think the way our offenses, especially performed last year, and I think as we're going to kind of see that offense, kind of stay where it's at in terms of just being one of the better offenses in the country, we're going to be able to attract those guys and hopefully keep those dudes home, right? We didn't get Jeremiah Smith. That was definitely that's a generational dude right there. But these are the guys that you need to keep home, and when you put them in that offense, and I saw someone throw out Darion Coleman's name because he's going to be the quarterback at that point, or potentially even Luke Nickel. That's what you want, right? We need to get back to keeping these explosive South Florida kids home and putting them in an offense where they can thrive and be successful.
I'll tell you what, like that, and we said at the beginning of the show, but the idea of looking at spring ball as, I really hope one of these guys plays out of their mind and wins this quarterback job because we need it desperately, compared to, man, now I'm excited to see how these young guys do, knowing what's on the line as far as who's the top backup and getting the early eyes on them about like a year from now, who's going to be the guy. That makes all that stuff a lot more optimistic and exciting for me as just a fan and a viewer of the program, because now you're going to get to see all those dudes, all those young guns, and say, okay, which of these guys is the 2026 guy? None of us were really that excited, the idea of 2025, because we knew that this team could be something special if we have a veteran quarterback. But I think everybody's pretty excited about the idea of 2026 with, your Emerys, your Lukes, your Darions, your Judds, and having the best man win, the best arm win of that group. So, but we'll see how it all shakes out. We have a long winter and then a long spring and a long summer, but it sure as hell feels nice knowing that we have a guy who's played at the highest level, going to lead the way at the quarterback position, and a defensive coordinator who certainly knows what the hell he's doing when a guy goes in motion leading the way on defense. So, but we'll see how it all goes. Before we get out of here, thank you guys for tuning in for the show. We appreciate you guys as always coming in and doing a great job in the chat, giving us ideas and playing off some of the crazy stuff we say. This is as exciting a week as we've had, since we lost a couple games at the end of the season. So even though we're not going to play in the national championship game, and some of you guys got to go watch Jeremiah Smith, Byron Ross is like, go throw a bag at him, see what happens. You might need to throw like 5 bags, as many bags as you could possibly, whatever like they're saying about
he just took out like a record like $20 million like insurance policy, bro. Like, come on, he's not bagging that boy.
you would need to buy Brinks, the company, and just get all their trucks, just send it to Columbus.
But if they win a national title, I'll just say this: if they win a title, then at that point, like, Jeremiah Smith is guaranteed top 2 overall pick.
He's already guaranteed.
I'm just saying, like, he's guaranteed to be a top 2 overall pick. He's already won a national championship at Ohio State. He doesn't need to be coached at all. He just needs to be unleashed on people. Like, maybe then he's like, hey, all right, guys, I'll give you a break. It's like when like an NBA player
coming back to their senior year.
Yeah, let me
Fletcher
just
comes
give you
back for his senior year. Everybody just, let's do it. Make it a crib thing. That'd be insane. But yeah, no,
Yeah,
it's
give you
just
one.
not
I'll give you
happening.
1 year, orange and green. I'll give you 1 year.
Yeah,
That's
that'd
it.
be crazy. That's like LeBron. I'm coming home.
Do the whole thing. He even has that. That'd be cool, right? Go on Twitter, go on Instagram, to set the whole thing up. Have the kids from the Boys and Girls Club there, like do the whole thing.
Yeah, nah, it's not happening. And you would have to throw like the entire economy of like third world countries at this guy. like you're talking multiple bitcoins, full in token. It's gonna be it's gonna be a pipe dream. So don't even go.
That's why they call them dreams, Steve. It's hard to shake those away. But we'll go final thoughts of the people, and somewhere in your final thoughts of the people also include your prediction for this game here in a couple of days. It's national championship game. People don't want to talk about. But yeah, Bill, you go first.
Well, I was gonna say like enjoy the natty, but you can't really enjoy this one. Short of Florida State being in it. There's probably no two other programs that I wouldn't want to see in there, but is what it is. I'll go 34-17 Ohio State. And then just, I guess, final thoughts, right? Exciting week. But we do have, some defensive position or defensive coaches to fill, right? Travis Jackson went to Wake. Salve went to Arizona. There may be more changes coming. So we may have some position coaches to talk about next week as well.
Very true. All right, Steve-O.
Good point. We barely talked about how we got rid of our corners coach. It's just action packed. We got rid of our D line, or not rid of our D line coach. They just found opportunities elsewhere, and you just have to imagine that. Why would they do that? But good for them. They both land at Power 4 schools, so good for them. Still means they're quality coaches. We're just moving on from that staff on defense. It just is what it is. So we'll see how that moves, but. Yeah, I expect us to get news on that. When it comes to the game, I don't really like either team. I'm pretty sure everybody feels the same. Is Notre Dame more likable with Marcus Freeman as head coach? Yeah, for sure. You could root for Marcus Freeman, but I just still don't want Ohio State to win the national championship. But if Notre Dame wins it, we'll never there's just no winning with this. It's their first one since the 80s, and they have pretty much an all-white team. But it is what it is. I like Coach Marcus Freeman. I would love to see the fallout of Ohio State. It's $20 million roster, not getting it done. The Ryan Day on the hot seat. I would love to hear that type of talk. But I don't know. I really can't. I really think Ohio State's going to win though, because Riley Leonard just can't compete in this game. I don't think he's going to be able to compete with Will Howard. So you're gonna have to score. Ohio State stout against the run. Notre Dame is really good at running, so I expect Notre Dame to still be able to run the ball with success, but not enough success to overcome an absolute dud in the passing game. So I think Ohio State wins it. I'd probably say like 31-13. I don't see Notre Dame scoring them much. To be honest with you, I think Ohio State's. They're pretty good. Their corners get abused sometimes in one-on-one matchups in these big games. I think Notre Dame receivers get the chance. I don't know, man. I just don't know. You got a Florida kid on there, Fairborn, that's pretty good, but is he going to get the ball consistently enough? He can create separation. He's quick. He's been like that. It's going to be tough. Great House had a big game for them. That was really on like one play, though. Where he got like the 70 yards or whatever it is. So They have to have some type of at least some type of regular, consistent passing game just to keep them honest. So because they really are good at running the football. They ran the football in Georgia, so everybody knows, hey, they can run the football if they want to run the football. So it's definitely just going to need a little bit more out of Riley Leonard. I don't think he's that guy. I'm taking the under on his passing. I think it's at 177. I'm taking the under, and yeah, we'll go.
All right, mine's very simple. Never Notre Dame. I will never root for Notre. I would never pick Notre Dame. I will never root for Notre Dame. I hate Notre Dame. I hate everything they stand for. I mean, not everything. I guess like the Jesus stuff is fine, but like the other stuff, not a big fan of it. But
the Jesus stuff is fine. It's crazy.
But no, I think they're gonna get annihilated. I'm gonna go 41-10, and Jeremiah Smith is relentless Jeremiah Smith. I'm gonna go 160, 2 touchdowns for him alone, and then one of Travion or Judkins' big touchdown and a defensive touchdown on top of that, and they're gonna annihilate him. But we'll see. I don't know if Notre Dame has the run in it for him. They played that Penn State game ugly. That was an ugly game. And Penn State was making mistakes all over the place, and Notre Dame was just barely making good on any of it. So, and they still almost lost it. So, not going to deal with it. But we'll see what happens. I'll talk about that a little bit. And then once that's done, it's just straight on to the 2025 season, which will be Miami's opportunity. 24 years since the national championship. Now we'll talk it up like, here we go. This is our time to shine. But that'll do it for us. Thank you guys so much for being a part of this thing and joining in with the conversations. Don't forget, Canes Connection is a valuable place to spend your money here. The holidays are over. Christmas is over. I mean, now you're just sitting there on that extra cash that you didn't have to spend for Christmas presents. So, hey, Canes Connection. It obviously works, guys. It obviously works. Don't be talking about buying a bank for Jeremiah Smith and you're afraid to put money into Canes Connection. Those two things don't work. Those two things don't work out. Unless you want a Jeremiah Smith impersonator, you got to put some money on the table. But it worked out. Got a quarterback, so let's keep putting it in there. So great job by those guys helping out with the program and getting that thing to go. Great job by these guys here. One down there, one over there. Talking about Miami Hurricanes football. Great job by you guys in the chat. To see us again next week right here, same time, same spot for 3 Live Canes on CanesInSight. So for Bill and Steve-O, my name is Chris. You all have a good night. Go Hurricanes.
This is for the national championship for Nebraska. He's a stud, that Brown, number 98. Urban's got it. Urban's free. Slips to the outside, tries to stiff arm, but he couldn't get by Ray Lewis.
Big time players. Step up in big games.